How's it going? Today I'll be talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, with a focus on how it affects military personnel. I'll cover what PTSD is, what research says about it, how it impacts cognitive and behavior, and why it matters both personally and professionally to me. What is PTSD? PTSD is a psychological disorder that develops after exposure to traumatic events. It can honestly really happen to anyone. It's most common in military, but it can happen to other people too that face traumatic events. There's multiple symptoms, disruptive memories, flashbacks that take you back to those traumatic moments, avoiding those triggering events and thoughts. Your mood changes negatively. You could be sudden, could happen over time, and increased anxiety and being hyper reactive in certain situations. And I put at the bottom just usually the symptoms impact your daily life, so greatly affects like just how you go about your day and how you carry yourself. My focus is on PTSD and military personnel. I'm in the military, so it just relates to what I'm around. They're definitely tend to be more at risk due to just their job and being exposed to certain events, especially like combat, just other things too, just stressful situations. That's kind of heightens that chance of getting PTSD. It's like I said, it's more prevalent in the veteran community compared to civilian communities. Symptoms don't just go away; they linger, they last. Like horrible impact on the brain, on the body, and as we've learned in the class, they all work hand in hand, and it's all connected together. It impacts daily life and transition to civilian occupations and personal life. Kind of touched on that. Just the research of it, it pinpoints the factors of why PTSD develops, the function of the brain and the different stressors and how the brain responds to those stressors. The highly effective treatments, psychotherapy, and medication. There's a lot of experimental stuff out there that's now becoming more mainstream. There's a show on Netflix called In Waves and War, and they touch on that. It's a couple military members that have dove into the experimental treatments, and it seems to have a good impact. So hopefully, with more testing and experiments, it can become more prominent throughout the veteran community. Effects on the brain. PTSD alters brain function and the structure. The changes directly contribute to persistent responses of fear and stress, and then the three different parts of the brain: amygdala, fear response heightened; hippocampus, memory processing impaired; and the prefrontal cortex, which we've all probably heard that one, and it kind of affects like your emotions and stressors and how you respond to those things. Stress and resilience. Some people have a resilient response to those traumatic events, and it kind of builds and allows them to overcome that. They can not necessarily see the positives, but take that and allow them to grow as a person. And then others may begin to develop PTSD. It causes an unregulated response to those stressors, so kind of like you don't have control over how you respond. Kind of your brain just takes it over no matter what you try to do. And it can also disrupt the recovery from those traumatic events, which causes them to linger on and really always get taken back to those moments. PTSD affects relationships and behaviors. Individuals may avoid situations, struggle with trust, or just feel very disconnected from their emotions and the people around them. tend to avoid situations, certain places, even the people around them. Stress caused by PTSD can really impact relationships in your life, and those people detach emotionally and cause very irritable moods, like mood swings almost. Uh, the personal accounts of people who've had it really can get into how it affects them every single day. There's a lot of cognitive effects with PTSD and how it affects the brain. It impacts memory, attention to detail, decision making, gives those intrusive thoughts, make it super difficult for you to focus and process that information the way you're supposed to. Military connections. That's in my military environment, cognitive performance is critical, and then PTSD can impair that decision making information. It kind of my job. I've had a couple friends who have struggled with it or been diagnosed with it, and it's not super common, but it does happen, and it really affects their um, everyday work life. A lot of them have transitioned on, and they still face the effects of it. And just understanding PTSD gives those healthcare providers and leaders of those members that support that they need. It affects, like I said, it affects that performance in tense and stressful times, and then having that cognition impacted can affect just decisions, problem solving, and overall safety of where you're at. Why I'm interested. I'm interested in PTSD because of its connection to military service, obviously, like I've touched on, and the responsibilities of being a leader and kind of taking charge and knowing when it's important to provide that support for those people that really need it. It's something I can relate to. I've seen it. It's becoming more known in the mainstream world. And there's always you always hear about PTSD in the world. Just kind of looking back on what we discussed, the key takeaways from my presentation. PTSD is very dynamic. The treatments are helpful, but it varies case by case, person to person, and how they handle the treatment and how their brain and bodies respond to it. The military specifically, they have a lot of different challenges when it comes to PTSD, and it's psychological and biological, affects everyday life, relationships, moods, and behaviors. Just wanted to touch on this, the last part. You matter and it matters. It can affect anyone, like I said at the beginning. Being aware of it only increases the chance for treatment and being able to heal and move on and live a healthy life. And like I've also said, it's not just the military members. That's kind of my focus, because what I can relate to. It can be anyone. I added the crisis lines in case you know someone that could need it, or if you need it, and just don't be scared to ask for help and get better. And the world needs you, and it's a better place because of it. So thank you.